Advertising Manager, and I get to be your host today for our guest. We want to thank the Whidbey Weavers Guild for being our sponsors today. It's an amazing guild out there on the West Coast. Thank you so much, Whidbey. We appreciate you sponsoring us today. As always, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. I can't hardly see them if they're in the chat, but we love the chat. Keep those comments coming. Those are wonderful. We also like hearing where everybody's from. That's great. Today, we are excited to welcome TahNibaa Naataanii. TahNibaa began her relationship with wool at a very young age. And for years, she's enjoyed the whole process, the washing of the wool, carding, hand spinning, dyeing, and finally the weaving of the wool. By 2000, she had decided to follow in her grandparents' footsteps. She moved to her ancestral home in Table Mesa, and she devoted her life to the sacred ways of raising and weaving with Churro sheep. She often weaves her things that are utilitarian, which also honors her heritage. In 2022, she was awarded the National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Fellowship. And this is just one of many awards that she has won. And we are so excited to have her here today. Hello, Tani. How are you?
Hi there.
TahNibaa,
I'm good.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'd like to say Yate to everyone across the globe. Everyone here in Navajo country, Eastern Navajo, Southern Navajo, Western and Northern Navajo, weavers, sheep herders, hand spinners, felting artisans, and all the other wonderful people across the globe who are dancing and celebrating with the beautiful fiber arts. Yate, I'm TahNibaa Naataanii, and I am Many Hogan Clan. I'm born for the Coyote Pass Clan. My maternal grandparents are the Mexican clan, and paternal grandparents are the Steep Rock Clan. Hawasane nishle do maideshkijni ebashishchin nake dene deshiche do tsena hapikin deshinale nle bistahas kade eya ayusinasha.
Thank you so much for doing that. That's wonderful. So you've had well, first, the most important question is, what is your favorite tea?
Well, it's dependent upon the season. During the holidays, I do like to enjoy apple cinnamon spice tea with lemon and honey. And then other times I like our own tea that grows here on the Navajo Nation, the Navajo tea.
Mm-hmm. All right. So tell a little more about how you got started. You started at a very early age. This is a long line of people in your family who have been involved in weaving. But can you share with us how you got started?
Yeah. Well, I believe it first started when I was maybe about 5 years old. My parents took me on a trip to visit my paternal grandmother in Toadlena, New Mexico, located just at the base of the Chusca Mountains. And my grandmother was carding wool, and she was using hand carders, and the wool that she was using was that beautiful reddish brown color that you see from the Navajo Churro. And I started handling the rolags. I started touching the wool, and my parents told me to not bother it. But my paternal grandmother told them, let her touch the wool, let her feel the fibers, because I'm going to give her her Navajo name. And at that time, she gave me my Navajo name of TahNibaa Atlohiigiih, which when it's translated, it means there's several translations, and the most simplest one is TahNibaa the Weaver, and then the most defined definition of that name is going into battle with weaving. So at 5, I was introduced to the weaving, and my paternal grandmother gave me my Navajo name, which would be my destiny. As I became older and as I transitioned into a young woman, into adulthood, it always followed me, the spirit of weaving.
That's a wonderful story. I've heard that several times in different interviews. It's just an amazing start in your life. I love it that you shared that with us. One thing I heard you talk about also is that when you started weaving, it felt like punishment because you were weaving and the other kids were doing other things. So would you talk some about that? And then also, would you talk a little bit about, do you see reluctance in the younger people to take up weaving also?
Yeah, well, at the age of 7, my mother set up a loom for me. My mentor, my beloved matriarch, Natani, she set up a weaving loom for me when I came back from school. And she said, today you're going to learn how to weave. At that time, a lot of my friends, whenever after school, we'd all meet to go play outside, or we'd go to someone else's home.
Mhm.
We'd go bike riding. We had our own activities. So when she told me that I had to learn how to weave first, it felt like a punishment because my friends all
Yeah.
continued on with their bike riding, and I no longer could sit down to watch Scooby-Doo, cartoons. And yeah, so she had me learn at an early age. And the other question you asked is, how are the young people weaving? I think that's what
Yeah.
you're asking.
Is it acceptable? Are they eager to do it? They don't want to?
Yeah, I think it's a very that's I don't know, because our Navajo Nation is vast. It's very large. I'm not in like the elementary setting where I see a lot of kids. I do believe that there is a challenge because of the introduction of the iPhone, the internet. Um, you know, our children and our families are in a very challenging time to hold on to our traditional beliefs, our traditional traditions, the skills that we know because of the introduction of those items. Um, I think that some of the kids, when they initially start living like in the desert, that's where I'm from, is from the desert, and they move into town, it's very different. It's maybe the swimming pool is closer, the post office is closer, everything is closer. So there's a lot of distractions. So I think it's challenging. I have a daughter. She's 20 years old. She knows how to weave, and but right now she's not very interested in weaving. So I think that for her, she's exploring her surroundings, and also she's a mom. She's a young mom, and I am a grandmother. So yeah, it's very different. Now it's more challenging than when it was in the 70s when I was growing up.
Yeah, I can understand that, of all the different options you have in your life now. I can see that. Yeah. Well, one of the things we're gonna talk some about your work, and one of the things I noticed when I looked at your work is that there's so much to see. There's so much to look at, and that things that attract the viewers. Now, here's a good example of one of these works. It's just beautiful. but it has so much meaning to it also. There's the whole visual aspect, but then there's a meaning behind it. So could you talk some about these images, and are they all cultural images? Are they personal? Do you combine those in your work?
I combine the cultural images, and then I create just, you know, I create the patterns, some of them on my own as well.
Mm-hmm.
This particular piece here is is kind of I would say like singing a tune of during the Harvey, the early Harvey, the Harvey house, the Harvey jewelry, a lot of the early work of I don't know his Fred Harvey, maybe I think is his name. I believe he influenced a lot of the silversmiths in the early maybe mid 1900s, and so teepees started being seen in the jewelry, and bows and arrows. The Thunderbird was seen, arrowheads were seen. So this, in a way, is I saw those images on the jewelry. So I wanted to see what it would look like on a shawl. And this particular shawl also is one of the TahNibaa shawls. This is a type of weaving that I developed. You can see the bottom of the weaving is at an angle.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a continuous warp. There's no cut warp in that. And on the side of the weaving, I also put some Navajo elements, and those are our 4 sacred mountains and the representation, the color representation. So the mountains, the East Mountain, the white shell is representation of that. And the South Mountain is turquoise. The West Mountain is abalone. And the 4th mountain is black jet. So yeah, and then I put fringes also on this. All the TahNibaa shawls either have an edge that is at an angle, that is like a triangle, diagonal angle, or it's straight across, or it's a stair step edge. And this is an early style that I created, and I'm still weaving these. And now I believe I'm at the point in my career where if a shawl, a weaving is seen like this, it's identified as a TahNibaa shawl.
Well, talking about the color, I was curious because you said the different mountains had different colors. You have beautiful color selections. The pieces are just gorgeous in the color combinations. Do the colors have meanings for you also, or do you just basically choose the colors that works for you?
On occasion, some of my weavings, the colors do have a representation. Some of them don't. This particular piece here is weaving that I title Landscape, and it's hand spun wool. So there's movement in there, like the landscape. When you look out in the desert, you'll see the different, the very subtle shapes of the hills. And so that's the reason why that's called Landscape. And yeah, you know, as far as selecting colors, I think that over the years, I've been able to see colors differently now, opposed to when I started weaving. You know, around 2000, I started weaving on a professional level where I wove every day. Weaving was my main work. So I was able to play with colors on a more frequent basis, opposed to being a part-time weaver.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with the landscape where I'm from, the desert, there's beautiful colors of tan, different shades of the caramel brown color, and these natural colors are what is the colors of my sheep as well. The beautiful salmon color is the ground lichen. And I think that there's a green in there also, and that's from the purple onion skin. And the bottom symbols, this is a symbol that I use a lot because I'm paying homage to the migration of man, the migration of the five-finger people. As traditional Dene people, we define ourselves and everyone else, the human people, as the five-finger people, and we all walk a certain path. So we are not all, it's like a fingerprint, our paths. So those migration symbols are different. They're made different to represent the many different cultures.
When you talked about the symbols, are you talking about the squares at the bottom of this weaving?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. The squares where you have kind of like a maze pattern in there, and then some of them have three of them inside one. Yeah. So those are the migration symbols.
All right. I just love the flow that you did on the top with the mountains, the different colors. It's just a lovely kind of flowing energy. Well, when you were talking about the colors and what they're made out, do you dye your own yarn?
I do. I did a lot more dyeing in my early years of weaving. And then I got busy being a mom, and then also continuing the ranching life and having sheep. And when you have sheep, when you're ranching sheep, they become your family. You don't have a day off. It's an everyday work with them. And for me, every rancher is different. So from where I live out in Table Mesa, the land is changing. It's been changing for the past 50 years. It's becoming more dry, and the grasses are diminishing. So I have to feed my sheep. I have to feed them hay in the morning, like a bale of hay, and in the evening I'll give them corn and like a sweet grain. So my work with my sheep is it's an everyday job, and it really takes a lot of time.
I cannot imagine. It's not like you can say, okay, it's Friday, I'll see you guys on Monday, right? You got to take care of them Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. But we're going to look at this next piece. It's called the Thunder Rose Shawl. And when I was looking at this, I realized my eyes just went everywhere. I wanted to see all the different symbols and all the different colors. And I was just struck by all that's going on in this piece. And then at the very end, what I realized is the symmetry of it, and that I wish you would talk some about symmetry and what that means for you and how that plays into your work. But the other thing I wanted to say is I love the symmetry without it being boring. Sometimes if things are completely equal and balanced, it's kind of a bore. But this just dances. It's just beautiful. So would you talk some about this piece?
Sure. I think that with my work, it's always evolving. My work is so alive. The weaving is alive, and it has such a strong heartbeat. And I have to honor that. I have to honor that creativity, that those feelings of sharing the creation, sharing that creative energy with our holy deity, the Spider Woman and the Spider Man. We traditional Diné believe that our weaving came from our beloved deity, Spider Woman and Spider Man. They created the loom for us. They created the different sheds. They created the different twill weaving patterns. So that energy is what I honor. I work with that energy. At times I do, and I think because I'm kind of like, I'm in partnership with that energy. So it allows me to see the weaving in different dimensions. So if you look at this weaving here, the shape, these are 5 different pieces of weaving, and they're attached together with the leather, the turquoise leather here. So, and the 5, there's 3 different dimensions of them. The center Thunderbird is slightly smaller than the 2 weavings on the side. And then of course, on the sides of the Thunderbird, that's also even smaller. So the colors is very important. I think over the years I've been able to see colors very differently. So earlier in my years, my mother used to choose my colors for me. I was unable to see what goes together, and finally I created a rule for myself, and I said 2 colors that are kind of the same can't go together. They have to be very opposite. So it can be a shouting orange with a tan color, or a shouting turquoise with a white. So if you see this weaving and the colors, you see that there's contrasting differences in the colors, and they kind of become a family. So when I see a color palette that works well, I use that a lot with my weavings, and I'll use it with another weaving. And I try also to add different colors. I try not to use like, say, maybe just 10 colors. The more colors you can use for me is I can paint with it, I can weave with it, and I love that ability to do that. And the bottom, and this is a TahNibaa shawl also. This is the Thunder Rose shawl, and this is dedicated to my daughter, Winter Rose. And I made this weaving in the winter time. And so what you see on the very end of the weaving, you see the mountains there. And she is so brave. In the month of December and January, she moved with her little family to Denver, to a very cold region, very colder than where we're from. And so that's the representation of the mountains in Colorado. And the Thunderbird is majestic, and it holds power. And because she's so young, she's at the time, she had just turned 20. So I feel like there's bravery within her, and that's what the Thunderbird exhibits. He exhibits strength and bravery and courage, and that's what she has. And on the top of the 2 last weavings on the side, on the very top, you see the straight white line, and then you see the zigzag line, and that there is a traditional symbol. That is a symbol of the male and female lightning. And you see that symbol in sand paintings, in the very sacred sand paintings. And I needed to put that in there because she needs those protection, the female and male lightning. She's left the 4 sacred mountains to explore employment, and the weavings on the side of the Thunderbird is very contemporary. In my eyes, that's a contemporary image, which we are both, my daughter and I both live in a semi-traditional contemporary world. So that is those patterns are representation of that.
Now, are these 5 panels that have been joined together?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
there are 5 panels that have been joined together. And this piece is about, I would say, 5.5 feet wide by 18 inches, 18 to 20 inches. And it wraps around. And it had a matching purse with it as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has a matching purse. And now this weaving here belongs to a woman in, I believe, some in Philadelphia, somewhere around there, I believe. Yeah, so she loved this piece here, and it went to one show in Phoenix, and she wrapped it around her. And her husband asked her if she likes it, and she just smiled, gleamed, and he knew she liked it, so they purchased that.
Wow. Wow. Well, I know some people have been asking this, and I would like for you to talk some about the looms. So I've seen pictures of you working on an upright loom. Do you have a variety of looms? Do you have a floor loom at all, or is it mostly upright?
Yeah, I have many looms. The photo on my left, what I see here is a traveling loom, and this loom here travels with me when I do presentations, and it's easily to disassemble. So, and then the one on the right is a loom that's about, maybe it's about 8 feet high and maybe 7 feet wide. And I put wheels on the bottom as well, so I could push it around the house. I could take it to the eastern window in my living room. and then as the sun travels over the horizon, I need more light, so I'll wheel it over to the western part of the house where I can get more light. So I do have a variety of looms. Maybe I have about maybe 15 Navajo looms. And then my mother bought me a baby wolf loom, wolf floor loom. And then she also gave me a table loom. I don't know the name of that particular loom. And then a friend of mine gave me a Leclerc table loom, a small one. So I am fulfilling I'm fulfilling my Navajo name of what my paternal grandmother gave me. I believe she wanted, it was her hope that I would become a weaver, because as I remember her hair was all white, and she didn't speak English, and in her lifetime she saw the transitions of the using the horse for transportation, to using the wagon, to the automobile coming into her community of Toadlena. So such mass changes in her lifetime, and she sees me, a 5-year-old granddaughter, and I think that, our elders, they have tremendous wisdom. They have tremendous foresight. they can see what we cannot. And I believe that she saw changes that would be forthcoming. And maybe she wondered, will my family continue weaving as we are? Will we continue this way of life? And so when she declared my Navajo name, it stayed with me and it followed me throughout my lifetime. And I had visits from the Spider Woman to remind me who I am, a weaver. As I left Navajo land, when I graduated from high school, I joined the military, and I was in the Philippines, and there the Spider Woman and Spider Man deity visit me, and I remembered that I'm TahNibaa Atlohiigiih. I am TahNibaa the weaver. So there's just I'm fulfilling that today, and I'm weaving in many different aspects. Navajo weaving is my primary weaving, and I do like to weave also with the triangle loom and the square loom and the rectangle loom. And years ago, I used to weave a little bit more on the floor loom, and I haven't done that in a while. So I need to study. I need to do some independent study to get back familiar with the floor loom.
Did you ever make a loom for yourself? Or did you mostly have them given
Yeah,
to you or bought?
a little bit. Yeah. I when I was traveling once, I think maybe my luggage got lost and my loom didn't come with me.
Oh no.
So I needed to create something. And in the hotel room, I was able to use like the coffee table, the legs of it. And then I got dowels, and I was able to affix something there. So that ability to be innovative is what comes from our ancestors. And our weaving looms can be very tall and huge, and our people used to move from one camp to another. So our weaving, we're able to take it down and set it up at another locality.
Yeah, yeah. I love your that small loom that you said you travel with. I know somebody's going to ask, who makes that one? Do you know?
Yes, that loom was such a wonderful, sweet gift from my apprentice, Lori Begay. Her husband, Ken, he made that loom for me.
Oh, okay.
And he gifted that loom to me.
Oh.
And he can be contacted through Facebook through Lori, his wife. She goes by Lori Begay, and she was my apprentice in 2020. I received a fellowship to mentor an apprentice, and she was the one I mentored. So her husband Ken is the one who created that loom there, and he did a wonderful job. That loom there, if you take a close look at it, it's you could use that as a warping loom, also a warping setup. There's places where you can put the dowel in the back and have different sizes, small looms, and see the weaving there is overlapped. It's overlapped the top of it, and it's being fastened to the bottom. That loom, that's the ingenuity of our looms. What it can do, just because it's a small loom doesn't mean you're subject just to that certain size. It's you can go a little bit longer than that and just overlap it.
Well, that's a great looking loom. It's really cool looking. Excuse me. Well, one thing that I was struck by is the many awards and your accolades that you've received and should. Um, so does that kind of, I mean, people actually look on you as a national treasure, and you are. Does that kind of regard by people impact on you as a person, on your work? Does it feel like pressure, or is it something that kind of moves you forward?
I think when I feel pressured, sometimes is when um, I'm going to get interviewed, or maybe if they want to make a movie or something, a documentary, and then I feel that I'm still learning how to weave. There's so much of the weaving. I'm still a student at weaving. So I I do feel some a pressure a little bit at times like that. But and then I also feel also that that's my way of life. That's a natural way of life for me. I don't yeah, it's a natural way of life. I've chosen that. I've chosen a path that I believe many people would not do. Leave their job and just check out of their 9 to 5 job forever and say, I'm going to take care of sheep now, and I know how to weave, and I'm going to follow that. And then now it's 20 years later, and I'm still a student. I'm still learning, and I am happy about those awards because I feel that I think I'm doing a good job. I think that you know, people like my work. They like my work. They like what I'm saying. Um, and that's important. That's important for my community. It's important because I'm a grandmother now. I have granddaughters, and my community also needs me, and I need them. We work like hand in hand, and our children need to know this skill that that you know, it's we are survivors from the long walk. We are survivors from being in prison from the with the government, and surviving after the aftermath. And now, you know, some of our parents were forced not to speak the language. So now some of our people my age don't speak the language. And so that affects the culture, that affects the tradition. And so now here I am enjoying my work. I have tremendous pride of being a Navajo woman, a Diné woman. I have tremendous pride in my work, and I respect my work. I respect my teacher. I respect our holy deities that brought this way of life to us. And so I am only a few of many. I have many Diné Navajo weaving colleagues that are also doing the same, celebrating this way of life, celebrating the creativity of Navajo weaving.
Well, I have to say, I've watched several of your videos, and I think you do a wonderful job. You're very eloquent in your talking and getting your ideas across. And I encourage people, Google, go check out some of it. It's just, it's more information than we can get here today. It's just amazing stuff. So I'm excited to talk about this next piece. I fell in love with this. This is called the feather wrap. And I'm assuming it's also a TahNibaa wrap, and it's
Yes.
called the feather wrap. And when I saw it, I just was like, I want that, and I want to wrap it around me. I just want to feel how it feels wrapped around me. And I wonder when you're making something, do you ever think to yourself, I hope whoever gets this reacts this way or thinks this about the piece. But I just fell in love with this. Would you talk about this piece?
Sure. I think a lot of my weavings are utilitarian, and I I want to pay homage to my ancestors, to the many women and men and our two-spirit people also, for weaving utilitarian pieces. In the early years, I believe that our weavings were for survival purposes, and we are here because of them. So many of my weavings are utilitarian. I want to make them where they can be worn, they can be utilized. So this particular one is one of them, but it's kind of like a TahNibaa shawl, but it's not, as the height of it is half its height. And it's so it wraps like a sash around the bodice. And it also can wrap around the hip, around the hip at an angle or snugly. So it's, when I make it, sometimes I do think to myself, I hope that they use it. They really do use it to keep warm, to maybe even create a shade for them, because that was my intention when I first made it. However, when people, when they do purchase the weavings, they're very protective of it, and they want to maybe store it, or just very protective of it. And I have to remind them too sometimes, with not this piece, but some pieces are made with the hand spun wool, and the wool was once in the sheep corral, under windy conditions, under the rainy conditions, under when it was snowing. So if something spills on it, maybe a soda or something spills on it, it's such a natural fiber that you can clean it yourself. It's so I wish that they utilize it, for what it was made for, a utilitarian piece, and take it off of their mannequin and take it out for the evening, or take it out on a fall night and use it. But when it leaves my hand, I do tell them too, if you want to make sure your wall is warm, you put it up there, So they'll put it on their sofa. Some people will buy a mannequin, and then some will use it too. And I'm really honored when they do use it.
Oh yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask you about being in the Navy. You mentioned it earlier. When I read that, I just cracked up, because first of all, Navy, you're not exactly next to the ocean. So I'm curious. And you did say something about you might travel more with the Navy, but I just thought it was interesting, of all the ones you could go into, that you went into the Navy. But then I was thinking about how the military is very disciplined, right? And in order for you to do everything you do, whether it's taking care of your sheep, processing the wool, dyeing, weaving, whatever, you must be very disciplined to get not all of it done, but that it's taken care of. So has that self-discipline come from you? Was that passed down through generations? Was it reinforced while you were in the Navy?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the discipline before I went into the Navy came from my parents and my grandparents. We have a philosophy, and our philosophy is to walk in beauty. And that philosophy encompasses many teachings. And one of them is endurance, physical endurance, the ability to be strong, the ability to be strong against obstacles and not give up. So if in boot camp, one time our company commander came in and woke us up at 3 a.m. and some people were crying. And for me, I mean, my parents usually don't wake me up at 3 a.m. But if my mom woke us up and said, "Get up," that was the rule. You knew you needed to do that. Or if your grandmother was there at a ceremony and you have to stay up all night because they're singing the most sacred songs for your return, for your protection. You can't sleep during those times, and so you're accustomed to that way of life. If I think if you have sheep, if you have horses, if you don't live in the town, if you don't live in the city, if you don't have running water, even, you know how to save water. You can't just let the water run and you lose it. So there, going into the military, going into boot camp, I didn't realize, but I already halfway made it. I had the physical part of it, the discipline part of it. The part for me that was difficult was the reading, the actual reading of maybe the naval history, reading the 10 general orders and remembering them, that part. But if it was somehow, if I had to remember 10 general rules of weaving, I would have got that easily. Yeah. Yeah. So even being a weaver, you have there's many, Navajo weaving has many protocols with it. So you learn them and you honor them for as long as you're a weaver. So a lot of the traditional way of life I grew up, I was half of it already disciplined me and prepared me for the Navy. And I wanted to travel also. I wanted to be able to, my mother actually, she was, I remember we would take her to the airport, maybe in Phoenix, I think in Albuquerque also, and she was going, I think one time to Washington, D.C. I don't recall in Phoenix where she was going, and I saw travelers. We went into the airport, and I wondered where did they come from? Where are they going? And where we live, also, we live on 491 is a very busy highway where it goes through Table Mesa, and at the time, it wasn't a 2-lane. It was only a 2-lane. It wasn't a 4-lane road. So I often used to sit on the rocks with my journal, and I would count the truckers go by, and I wonder where are they coming from? Where are they going? So I already in my teenage years was beginning to think of traveling. And my beloved late father, Leo Natani, he was the one that suggested that if I want to travel, he says, you look into the Navy, you'll be traveling. And that's what I did. And I got my first orders was on a ship. And the people that travel in the Navy are the ones that are on a ship, because you get to go to Hong Kong, to Guam, to Japan, to Mexico, depending if you're on the Pacific coast or the Atlantic coast.
Well, we are running out of time, but I really want to take some time and talk about a really important topic that has kind of blossomed and people are talking about it, which is great, which is, how do you feel about non-Navajo people saying that they are doing Navajo weaving?
Well, we're living in a very changing time now, and we are we are practicing many, many different weaving techniques, different ways to weave. And for personally myself, I don't feel anything negative about a non-Navajo weaving Navajo style, as long as they follow the protocols, as long as they learn the technique properly and respect it, because the Navajo weaving is so powerful that if you don't respect it, it could reject you. And there's many protocols with the Navajo weaving. I think it's very important, if you want to learn how to weave the Navajo way, you learn from our people that are weavers. We know the way to teach. We know the protocols of how a weaving should be set up, or even the hand spinning. We know the proper way that the spindle should be held, how we know its uses. We know, some of us know the songs of it, the stories of it. It's very powerful. So, and it's important that if you learn it, that you learn it from our people.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know it's interesting because, it wasn't that long ago, that wasn't even a question. Nobody even, thought about it. It was just, sure you can. And now it's great because there are conversations about it going on. We don't have time for a lot of questions, but I want to get a couple in. And a lot of people want to know how you design. Do you draw everything out ahead of time? Do you kind of go with the flow and design it as you go? If you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do all that. I do have a scrapbook, and I'll design it out. I get an idea, just a template. And sometimes my commission pieces, they're very direct. My customers want to see something in it. So then I'll do that. But I can't control it completely, because I'm in partnership with the Spider Woman and Spider Man deity. So I do a little bit, and they also put how they want it to come out. Yeah. So I do some sketching, I do some shading, and then I start. It's kind of like I get to the starting line, and then it starts. Sometimes it doesn't even, nothing near the sketch.
I like
Nothing
that.
near the sketch. Yeah. And I have to honor that. I can't say, no, I want it like this. I can't do that. I have to, because I made a commitment 23 years ago, and with the Spider Woman and Spider Man deities, and I said, you're taking care of me, and I'm gonna do my best to take care of you, and I'm in partnership like that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. People are asking about your sheep. So there's a couple of questions. How many sheep do you have? And then they want to know, do you only weave with your sheep wool, or do you use other people's?
Yeah, I have 19 sheep now, and I'm trying to reduce down to about 8. So I have 19 now, and we're getting ready to move to the Chusca Mountains this coming weekend. I love to weave with a variety of fibers. Sometimes other flock owners, they'll give me some of their wool, and then sometimes I'll give them some of mine. I like to explore with silk, with hemp, with I'm learning about flax right now also. So I've been spinning with flax. So a variety, and I don't really want to weave with acrylic. I don't weave with acrylic, but if that was the only thing available and I had to, I would. Yeah, but I don't, it's not my preference. Yeah.
What do you use for a warp?
I use the wool, not cotton, but wool. On occasion, I did spin mohair, but I didn't know that I should mix wool with the mohair. I just spun it straight mohair and it's slippery.
Hmm.
Yeah. So right now I do weave with a lot of commercial spun warp, and on occasion I'll spin the warp.
Okay. People want to know where they can see your work. They're talking about specific trading posts or fairs, or so where can
Yeah.
people see your work?
Yeah. I have some of my work in some museums, like the Phoenix Herds Museum. There's
Mhm,
a couple of my weavings there. At the
mhm.
Idle George Museum in Indianapolis, in Santa Fe at the School of Advanced Research, I have some work there. And then I also, if you Google me or look on my website, you'll see some of my past weavings there. I used to sell to trading posts, but I don't sell to trading posts anymore.
Okay.
I go to the art shows and I interact directly with the collectors, and that way I'm able to represent my work and speak about my work.
I think they were asking about one in Taos. Do you do the show in Taos?
The Wool Festival, I used to do the Wool Festival, but when it moved to Santa Fe, I haven't. And this year I'm gonna be I'm not gonna be a vendor there, but I'm gonna be a participant. I'm gonna visit the Wool Festival in Santa Fe. But
Is
I'm
that the
not only a weaver, I also do felting, hand felting,
Oh,
and
okay.
I use the Navajo Churro for that. So I like to use the outer locks and not felt those in it, but have them loose. Yeah. So my new work is getting ready to explore some felting garments using the churro wool.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. We could have, and somebody else said that we could do this for an hour and hours and hours. We could. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, TahNibaa, for being here. I do appreciate it.
You are welcome.
Just
And
been
I'd
admiring
like
your work
to
for so long.
I'd like to also thank the Four Corners Weaving Guild. They, I believe, did some of the early groundwork, maybe recommended me to be a part of the show. And I'd like to give a shout out to them also and thank them. And thank you all also.
I hope we'll see you again soon. Like Convergence. I'm always inviting
We
people to
might,
Convergence. I want to meet you all. I want to meet you all.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
we might just drive over there and just get a sheep herder or a babysit sheep herder, and then we'll
There you
drive over
go.
there.
There you go. That would be a great idea. It's a great idea. We do want to thank your sponsor today, Whidbey Island Weavers. Thank you all so much for being a sponsor. We do appreciate it. What a great show to be a sponsor of, huh? This was wonderful. It just makes me rethink weaving and my relationship to it. I'll have to watch the show again. I want to hear more. Again, I want to thank Whidbey. If you want to be a sponsor, if your guild, your business, a group of you want to come together and do a sponsorship, just go to the website at weavespindye.org and you can sign up for a session or call me and we'll figure out a good time for you to be a sponsor. But again, thank you all so much for doing that. We've got a skein, talk about weaving and spinning. We've got a skein competition at Convergence, and I would encourage you all to submit. We want to see the beautiful spinning that you all do. It is during Convergence, and you can ship your materials ahead of time to the office, but it has to be there by July 5th because we're leaving. Or you can hand deliver it on July 10th, but you must sign up. We need to know that you are going to submit something, and you can do that online at weavespindye.org. There are a variety of categories. There's novelty, which is any fiber. You can do non-animal, but that can be blended with an animal, but it has to be 50% or less. As an animal blend, there's singles, multiple blend. It's $3 to enter if you're a member, and only $5 if you're not a member. That's a great price to enter an exhibit. And there will be prizes. So think about it. All you spinners out there, we want to see your work. Let's make Convergence a lot more about spinning. So enter now. And again, you can ship it or you can bring it. It's easy to bring. So if you have any questions, give us a call, or you can go online at weavespindye.org and learn more. We want to thank everybody for supporting HGA by either donating or becoming a member, or both. All those donations help support programming that we offer throughout the year, and we do appreciate it. Thank you again so much, TahNibaa, for being here. What a great program. If you want to watch this again, or you want to watch any of the other past Textiles and Tea, you can do that. You can go to HGA's Facebook page, or you can go to YouTube. I encourage you to subscribe to YouTube, because when a new one is uploaded, you'll get a notice. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful week. Next week, we have Susan Iverson, and she's going to talk about her new book. So thank you all so much, and have a great week. Happy tea.